Now, some might say this channel has reached its final stage in its metamorphosis of complete knife collecting assholery. Expensive switchblades, customs, partaking in ruining the collecting of traditional knives, and my beautiful hair. I mean, I couldn't even answer a question on my recent live stream. Favorite knife under 100? It should be easy. It's the Buck 110. Sorry, everyone. Gotta keep the brim to hats a noddin'. Now, after a little bit of introspection, maybe I like being part of the problem. I mean, are knives meant to be used? A shameful thing you hoard, or toolery to show off to your, quote, internet buddies? So now that I'm in my final stage as a beautiful butterfly, with little connection to the basic concept of a pocket knife, this video should be of little surprise. Last year, I went off the deep end and I purchased a Sharp by Design Void XL and the Deadlock seen here. Why don't I go ahead and cover this up? This is not a knife-related injury, by the way. The Void XL is made by a friendly man from beautiful New Jersey named Brian, in a shop full of expensive machines all by himself. He and his machines are known as Sharp by Design. Some people buy Yeezys to leave to their cats. Others are building 5G blockers in their garage. Make sure you put some money into a turret for the lizard people on top of that garage. Or, you know what? Maybe you just bought a carbon fiber hood for your Challenger and you're upgrading your sprinkler system. Do people still do normal stuff with money? Mortgage payments? All I'm saying is people buy all kinds of dumb shit and are no damn good. So thankfully YouTube servers are here to capture all of our mediocrity when we post about our boring lives and crappy hobbies. Today's mediocrity is a comparison and overview of Brian's not mediocre customs and production. The production Evo Typhoon I just got, my custom and purpled Void XL, Lavons from the Knife Nuts custom Chicane, which is no longer made, and the new about to be no longer made custom Tempest. That's how Brian's knives are. Now the Tempest seen here is a prototype which has been slightly revised for the ones he sells to the sorts of people watching this knife video essay. Now a good custom knife has a few components. There's got to be some scarcity to it. It has to be well made. It needs to have a little bit of flair, and it's got to look good. And with any luck, all of these things together will make collectors wreck the secondary and prevent people from easily purchasing them. Brian's designs appeal to me first and foremost because they look good. Yes, since I look good, my knife has to, too. Which is why I chose the Void XL and the Evo Typhoon. Apparently I look like a knife. Although if we're being wishful, one of my favorite knife designs out there is the Arch Nemesis. That's a little out of my bad decisions price range unless I start, criming. But the flair he puts into the blade milling, creative anodization, handle texture, in addition to its clean classic lines, is amazing. Some of the blade etchings on the Arch Nemesis are pretty amazing. I don't see many other people doing that with blades. But before we go any further, let's take a look at the dimensions of the 3 custom Sharp by Designs. And I'll verbally let you know the Evo sizes since I got that a few weeks after I shot this. Like the overall length and weight. The Tempest is obviously the biggin. The prototype of the Tempest seen here does not have the internal handle milling that will bring the customs he starts selling under 5 ounces. He revised them. Evo is 8 1/4 inches overall and 3.91 ounces. Blade length and cutting edge. Tempest again comes in different blade styles, like a Bowie, I think. Hope he makes a Bowie. Would hate for people to message him about buying a Bowie in the Tempest and he doesn't make it. Probably wouldn't get to review another one of his knives. Evo's 3.7 inches with a blade cutting edge of 3.36 inches. Handle size, grip area. The Void XL and the Chicane are the average guy sized here. Evo is 4.56 handle and 4.05 on the grip. Light and large. And neutral. Handle thickness and spine thickness. You'll notice I'm using a rubber mat here. Wasn't going to chance the bricks or the concrete. Didn't want to be murdered for dinging the edge. The Evo is a hair under 1/2 inch thick and 1/1600ths on the blade stock. Then the behind the edge coming in at about 1/3 of a millimeter. Tallnesses. Evo is 1 1/1700ths of an inch. And while you look at these pretty knives, I'll move on to the customs and talk about them some more. Who likes hearing me talk? In my current mindset of collecting, there's a small handful of knives I'd like. However, when buying custom knives, you'll realize they take the place of other things you really need or want. Like food, clothing for your children, and surround sound. Gotta have your surround sound. It's a necessity. I think there's about 3 or 4 other customs I like that I don't know if I'll get around to buying. It's kind of a big deal for me. Like, say, a Birdvis slip joint. Love those. Love the wipe videos he does on Instagram. Probably a Mead's slip joint. Those look really good. A skiff. All my knife buddies love those, and I think I like the Drifter the most. And an arch nemesis, but one of the extravagant ones that I could never justify buying with all the cool, I don't know if the crosshatch or the wave pattern on the center of the blade is what I'd like, but you know, I learned to love either. But I like the ones that are all the colors of the rainbow with the fancy texture. Back to earth. The Void XL, the Chicane, and the Tempest. A good custom knife really isn't a bad investment. Good custom knives, and you'll have to do your research on this, that are in demand usually hold their value. My Hawks, for example, are worth more than when I purchased them. Those might fall in the small production category, but still. What is a custom knife? I'd say you have to keep the definition very simple, but, you know, it is up for debate. In my head, and my definition is, it's made one at a time by a very small amount of people, 1 or 2. Do 3 people work together well to make a single custom knife? I don't think that happens. Mostly by machines or hands, it really doesn't matter. And to be a good custom, it has to have a reputation as being well made. What's the fit and finish like? The attention to detail? Can you order options on it? There are shit customs out there that people pay a lot for, so please be careful and research before you buy. First, the Void XL. I like purple, and I think you know that by now. It's the only color of underwear I buy. I definitely didn't request it because Brian doesn't take special orders, but the purple has a really nice shade of it, and it contrasts nicely with the silver of the titanium. The texture on the knife gives it an extra flair that just purple by itself couldn't do. There's something about the simplicity and complexity within the gentle curves, even if it sounds like poetry that a virgin might write to a popular girl and slip it into her locker. Alternating textures. While you were going on dates, I was perfecting knife pros. But don't worry, viewers. I've turned my life around. I've had sex once or twice now, and I review knives on YouTube. There were different handle styles with different textures. He doesn't keep too much of an archive on his website, so you'll have to check his Instagram feed or other places. So, it feels good in the hand. It's extremely fidgetable. You got the flipper, you have the hole flick. Is it a gap? Is it a hole? You know, how do I make it sound not creepy? I guess you could call it a Spidey flick. Warnies, Spideys. Ugh. I don't know, pet names for nerdy things are gross. However, the knife is kind of up there with my paramilitary 2 in the fidget factor, kind of like the 941 as well. The XL uses an atypical nub detent like a lot of Brian's knives, which is, the detent is actually part of the handle and not a steel or ceramic ball, which sounds a lot, you know, it's going to add more to the tooling cost if you have to remove all that material. The detent holds strong and my weak pasty arms can't fling it hard enough to get it to open. The blade is a hollow grind, drop point made from nitro V steel and bead blasted. He had 2 or 3 different styles of blade on this one, all close but differences in the swedge area. It's an extremely finely pointed blade, like very pokey, and the hollow grind is ground impressively thin. Comparing this to the Evo Typhoon's grind, like this has a lot more work put into it. I use it, but I'm always afraid of dropping it on the floor and messing up the milled texture of the titanium. The pocket clip is a winner for me. It shares a similar design between all 3 knives. I think this one, actually all 4, except for the pocket clip on the Evo Typhoon. It doesn't have all the milling on it. I think this one's still the easiest to slide in and out of the pocket, you know, with also great retention. The clip is titanium. Now between all 4 knives, this one is kind of the middle. No, not the middle. Between the 3 customs, this is the middle in size and weight. However, the Evo Typhoon is lighter, but it's not a custom. Now the Chicane. This is Lavons Chicane. This is Lavons knife, and Knife Nut's lore states it's the only sharp-eye design with a Damascus clip. I think I remember that correctly. This has long since been retired, but it's still beautiful, like your grandmother. The venting in the handle lets the blade show through when it's closed. It reminds you that you've got Damasteel kind of money. Damasteel money means you buy a blade more to look at than to use. And then looking closer at the handle, you can see the titanium has an incredibly thin, fine texture. The knife, while a very smooth deployer, you can see the improvement from the Chicane to the Void XL, then to the Tempest, which has a strong detent and drops shut. It's pretty impressive. Remember, real knives are judged by the lack of wiggles. Brian will tell you that. Ergonomics, design, steel, attention to detail, literally everything else is behind the wiggles. The blade etching is pretty amazing, and it's thin behind the edge on its elegant Persian-style upswept blade. I don't normally do the squigglies, but I do these because, because he made these one at a time, there's not a ton of them out there. They're on the secondary, but you'll have to look because they're rare. You probably won't find one exactly like this. I see some of his older knives pop up on our knife swap from time to time. Seen them go from 700 to over 1,000, but I never have the money at the time. His knives, even the ones that aren't as extravagant, are mini technical marvels. You look close, and there's all kinds of interesting details, like for example the fine detail on the handle, which only you'll notice because you'll never trust a goddamn soul to touch your knife. Sometimes customs don't rival some of the finer production knives, but not sharp by designs I've handled. They're actually better than the productions. Not only are these pretty much perfect knives, they have a flair a production knife doesn't, and many of the textures and colors are unique to only the knife that they're on. He tries out different things and experiments with textures and colors and etchings. Okay, now the Tempest, Brian's first big ass front flipper, which starts around $1,000. I think he's done the big ass before, but this is the first time he's combined the big ass with the front flipper. Did he ever do a front flipper for the Void? I don't remember. I don't think he did. The good news is that even if you're like, oh, it's a front flipper type of person, he makes them in regular flipper styles too for people like me. I'm a bit more in that second camp because I tend to drop front flippers when I fidget with them. I'm not great at them. And do I really need to be? Is that something a person needs to be as great at front flippers? I don't think so. And who wants to fuck up the resale value by dropping a knife they have to sell because of a surprise medical bill? It takes a while for the GoFundMe insurance to kick in, doesn't it? I'm a big fan of the checkering, or is it the knurling on the side? I'm about to get an Evo in the mail, and I was slightly disappointed that the Evo didn't have that this time around. The Tempest has a blank canvas, though. So far, he's come up with all sorts of texture and color combos that keep his customs from looking like one another. I'm a big fan of the horizontal brushing on the blade, which takes literally a twist of the wrist to drop shut. Look at that. That's really smooth. Probably the smoothest knife I've ever held. The grip is nice and neutral and made for larger hands. I would love to own one of these in a standard front flipper version, but the consolation is there will be a production coming sometime later this year, hopefully. Can't quote me on that because that may change. You know how production, when you get somebody else to make a knife for you, sometimes shit gets hung up. But I'm going to definitely buy it. My guess is that if it's like his other Riot produced productions, it'll be a little smaller and, mostly colorless. Won't have the flair. Okay, anyone sticking around for the Evo? I wouldn't, because this video sucks. You may remember I reviewed the Micro Evo in the past, and I've kicked myself for not pre-ordering the original Evo when it came out. I didn't have the money at the time, as is the story. The Micro is made for cuter, littler hands. I think Shabazz likes that one. Shabazz. You say Shabazz, I say Shabazz. The fact that Brian offered a buoy clip on this was pretty great. I wish he would have done the diamond grip, but, if you look at me, you realize I'm probably used to disappointment by now, so it wasn't a big deal. What is it like to not have your dreams continually crushed? Well, if I were you, I would simply stop having dreams. That's what I learned. This cost about $340 and was a limited run. The pre-order price is lower than what you bought them for after that. You could probably still find them on Blade HQ or places right now, if they have some. So expect to pay more on the secondary because you were a chump and didn't sign up for the wide open pre-orders last year when they were open for a full 2 days and you saw it on his Instagram. I've been seeing them caught and released over on Knife Swap for 400-ish. Great knife, but not for me, brah. This will be a catch and release. Now, $340 is on the upper end of my production knife price range. The Deadlock and the Void kind of killed expensive production knives for me. My Sebenza has been my most expensive production knife to date. And it's good, but it doesn't, match the happiness some of my $80 to $350 knives bring me. You won't see any more CRKs or Riots on the channel unless it's something special like this. Maybe another Microtech Auto somewhere down the road, but, that's it. Okay. I will try loaners. I just don't see a whole lot of value or use in production knives above $300 anymore. You know what? If you really like the design, it's worth it to you. That's how I'd see it. The action is smooth on the Evo Typhoon, but not quite that drop shut like the Tempest. But close. The handle is big, comfortable, and neutral. Just how I like them. Neutral. It fits my hands well and no sharp owie parts. The Evo looks and feels like a sharp by design. However, you're kind of missing the texturing and the colors of the rainbow and the flair of his customs. You know, when I have both of his knives that I own in my hand, the Void XL is just where it's at. The clip here mimics the custom clips, but is a little stiffer without the extra fancy milling on it. You know, you'll notice for such a large titanium production knife, the weight stays under 4 ounces. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a titanium-handled knife with this big a blade that's lighter. The tab here is jimp-free, and it's properly chamfered too. Nothing owie, nothing sharp. Your mom will tell you a good tab doesn't need any jimping, and Brian does perfect tabs. And I'm sure the Pocket Pecker crew, the guys who talk about that, are going to check in. Now, personally, I generally carry a knife in the pocket by itself, especially the real pretty ones like this. So there's nothing for that tab to get snagged on. Okay, that's not one of my complaints. What I do care about, though, is not forgetting to tell you that the blade steel on these are M390. It was on the last run as well. I'd be a shitty knife reviewer if I forgot to tell you that, wouldn't I? We're going to wrap it up. Brian makes very good looking, well-made knives. Even if he gets Riot to produce his knives for him, they're built to exacting standards and are among the finest production knives you can buy. His customs are legendary in their attention to detail and perfection and their use of color and texture. Luckily, if you look on the secondary, you'll see one pop up occasionally for a decent price, maybe only slightly more than they cost new. And it's rare that 2 of them are alike. Anyway, thanks to Lavon and Brian for the loaners. It was sad to see him go. The consolation is I have the Evo now, and I'll probably buy the Tempest production when it's announced. So if you like this sort of video, make sure you follow Sharp by Design on Instagram, where he posts his pictures and videos of all the customs he comes up with, and he sells them, you know, there too. The best part is you can ask him all sorts of wiggle-based questions and have a chance at being blocked. Think about buying a t-shirt for me or a sticker to support my channel. Subscribe, say hi to the patrons, like the video, click the bell, leave a comment. Can you hear the rain that's been happening here? Southern California doesn't have a lot of rain, but it decided to have it on the day I wanted to record this. Maybe you can't hear it, and if you can't, that's good. Anyway, thanks for watching. Okay, are they gone? You know, the squares, because this is the part where the hip guys with the mustaches who touched a boobs once talk about smoking cigarettes and the naughty parts of the Sears catalog. Now, I shot this and thought about not including it. I feel like Brian would be a little disappointed in me. I mean, let's be honest, he probably already is a little or a lot of bit disappointed in me. But like a lot of the bad ideas I have to follow through with them. Which is, of course, how this channel came about. Anyway, I didn't damage the knife or hurt it, but, you know, I remember when I was trying to earn the clicks for my Sebenza days and I saw a comment on my patron exit interview that really hit home. So this one's for the fans, the devotees. It's like the extended version of one of the Hobbit movies, and all that implies. So, stay golden.